Welcome to the next module of the course. This one is all about feedback and review. But before beginning, I would like you to give yourself a big pat on the back for making it this far into the course. I'm telling you, the competition has no work ethic, they have very low attention span, they can't do shit. And that's why they probably left in the middle of the first video. So if you're watching till here, congratulations. I honestly do not care how many people watch this video. I just want the knowledge in my brain to be passed on to your brain so that you can teach it to other people. Now, coming back to feedback and review. So, if you don't track, you don't care. That's one of my favorite quotes by my Guruji, Alex Hormozi. So, when you start studying, the whole goal that we have is to derive an input output equation. Input is what you're doing, output is what you're getting. In our case, this is marks. This is strictly marks. We're not talking exactly about CGPA because CGPA involves many different factors which you cannot control, like the class average, the standard deviation, all of that. But marks you definitely can control, and this is one thing that is true, that more marks means more CGPA. Fact. Now coming back, the goal is to have an input output equation. The best way to do that, now there's stages. You first have to go through the learning and understanding phase, and then you go into the practice phase, and then you go into the question solving stage. So in the practice and question solving stage, I would recommend you do papers. Most of the colleges have previous year papers. I'm sorry. I would recommend you do papers, you do relevant questions that your professor has suggested. So once you do those questions, you write that down by hand because the exam would happen on pen and paper, right? And you write them down exactly as if you're giving an exam. If you don't understand any question, or if you are clueless about it, you just leave that question, you make a big circle mark, and then you come back to it when you're reviewing your answers. Now, once you're done with your paper, the first paper would be the hardest, and it would involve the most amount of feedback and review. How will you do the review? Now you don't have anyone who can check your papers and correct your answers. In that case, you have to either review it manually by going through your source material. If it is theoretical questions, it makes sense. If it is a numerical question which is just formula based, then also it is easier because you just see if you have written the formula correctly, if you have applied it correctly, very good. If you written theoretical question, you have included the major points. If you have said something in different words, then also it's fine. Now, if those don't work, you have to click pictures of your answer script and upload it into ChatGPT. Yes, it is not 100 times accurate, but as I said in the first video, we are directionally correct. At least it will give us some idea of how to structure my answers. In my own English exam, I was writing too long sentences, like my English is very conversational when I write. I write exactly like how I speak. But in technical English, you have to be a bit more jargon filled in my language, and a bit more technical, honestly. So that's what it told me to do, and I made those adjustments and I got an A. So that was how you attempt paper and how you do the correction. Please remember that not analyzing a paper that you've solved is as good as not attempting the paper in the first place. If you have done a paper, you've invested your 2 to 3 hours, and you're not analyzing it, you might as well not do it. You might as well not even do the paper. Now, if you have done it, you have to analyze and correct your mistakes. Okay? Now, first of all, you don't judge yourself for the mistakes. If you have made a mistake, you accept, okay, I have this mistake I have made. Now the thoughts some thoughts that can come into your mind, oh, I have this studied, I thought I knew this topic, but I don't know, how will I manage? See, worrying, overthinking is not going to get you anywhere. Confront reality, move on, try to solve it. Spend as little time as possible on worrying how it will be done. One of my good friends, if you know, you're watching this, you know who you are. Then what she does is that she makes a mistake. Even she does this before the exam also. She'll call me randomly before the time. I have this oof midterm. I don't know how I'll do this. It's crazy. I'm not able to understand. It's really freaking me out. I'm like, just calm down. Drink some water. She's like, no. It's not that deep. I was like, fine, but yeah, if that's the case with you, that you panic a lot, you get very tense even if you get one question wrong. Honestly, that does not matter. I have had multiple exams, especially in the last semester, when I had not studied anything till one day prior and I did not know how to answer one question. But then I studied it and now I can answer this question. And 6 hours later, I wrote the exam and I got good enough marks in that question. Does not matter. All that matters is how you perform on the exam day. So do not judge yourself for making mistakes. It's good that you're making mistakes. The competition isn't even trying. Honestly, people have no work ethic, and that's exactly why I'm making this video. This whole course, so that I can at least remove the excuse that I don't know how to study. And I can just then point and blame them that no, you are choosing not to study. So that being said, you don't judge yourself for your mistakes. You accept these mistakes and you find way to correct them. Now, while correcting them, you need to be objective. By objective is that in most of the subjects that we have as engineers and as science students, there is just one correct answer. Okay, and in theoretical subjects also, except English and language and all of those stuff, there is one correct answer. So you have to see what question did you write, what answer did you write, and then you verify with that one correct answer. In numerical questions, it's very easy. Okay, it was correct or not. And in the theoretical questions, there are two types of theoretical questions: concept based and fact based. I've covered how to study those in the previous videos. So concept based questions, you have to understand if you're using the technical words or not, if you're understanding the flow, if you're making it simple and easy to understand. And there is sometimes you need to use the correct vocabulary also. So you have to be objective, like what it's given in the material, it should be very similar to what you have written. Not exactly the same, because exactly the same sometimes is filled with jargon, does not make sense, but it should be similar. Okay. And yeah, and in the fact-based questions, then it's just fact, so you have to write it exactly as it is. One thing that I would tell you to avoid is feeling like, array, it is like this only, array, it is just a minor change, array, it is just not that. Now here, how much of it is this much only, that depends on you, and you have to decide. I do not like using the words intuition and feeling, but here I have to tell you that now you have to see whether the deviation between what it's given in the material and what you have written is so much that the examiner will cut your marks or not. If there's a sentence which is in technical words and you have written it simplified and it still makes the same sense, then it's fine. But if those technical words are keywords and the answer itself does not make sense without those keywords and you've excluded those keywords, then the examiner can cut your marks. So you have to be objective and make the right decision. You have to be honest with yourself that what amount of deviation is acceptable. I hope I'm making sense. Next, now one of the refrains that I would give to you is that if you don't understand a concept, if you do something wrong, if you do a numerical wrong, if you forget a formula, if you forget a definition, if you do a question wrong, if you don't even know what the question means, very good. It's good that it happened now. At least now it will not happen on the exam day. Now you have time to correct it, and as long as you correct it even 1 minute before the exam begins, you're in a safe spot, because now you know what not to do in the exam. That is the reframe I recommend to that friend of mine. Okay, it's good that the mistake happened right now. Now in the exam, you can correct it. So please use that reframe and do not panic. Now, with all of this, you might just get to sit. You might just get to your study table and you might start studying, and you make some mistakes. You do stuff. Some of you can't even sit for 3 hours. Now you have a completely different problem. I'll probably make a video in the future on how to increase your attention span, so stay tuned for that. For the other ones who at least can do this, can do, like, you can sit for that amount of time, but the amount of uncomfortable feelings that you get while looking at your mistakes, and it becomes hard for you to accept that I have made these mistakes, and correcting them feels like a hard task, and you just want to ignore it and just go out, do something else. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Look at your mistakes. I would like to quote Tom Bilyeu: stare nakedly at your inadequacies. Your inadequacies where you're insufficient, please scare them nakedly. It will hurt. It will hurt. I'll tell you how it feels. It feels like a throb in this region, like in the abdominal region. It feels like soft burning sensation, like you just want to withdraw. It's very uncomfortable, exactly like how you feel nervous in, like, before going to an event or where you have been called for public speaking. It's very similar to that feeling. You just want to withdraw, you just want to close, you just want to avoid, you just want to shy away. Your body language becomes kind of closed. Your feet, I mean, now that's an exaggeration, but you get my point. That you feel this really weird feeling, okay, in your abdominal area. Good. That's a sign that you're on the right path. So I would like to, I think, what was the name of the guy? Just a minute. So there was a comedy writer whose name was Jerry Seinfeld, and he wrote a very famous comedy show, which is Seinfeld, which ran for 9 years. Very, very famous comedian. And what this guy used to do was he used to study, he used to just sit in the room with a pen and paper, and he used to tell himself that I can either write jokes or I can do nothing. It's fine, I can just sit right there, and I can just sit for 3 hours, or I can write jokes. Now when the brain is given, wait a minute, sorry for that, when the brain is given a choice to either remain idle or do something, we would rather do something, provided the short attention span options, the little dopamine snacks, have been removed. If you give your brain an option to do nothing, or to study, or to watch reels, of course you'll watch reels because it is low effort and gives you high dopamine hits. Please keep your phone in another room, keep it switched off, and yeah, there's not going to be any emergency. I'm telling you, there's not going to be any emergency. So yeah, for that reason, keep it, either you can study or you can do nothing at all. Either you can analyze your mistakes or you can do nothing at all. So please be objective. Don't judge yourself. It's good that it happened now. Analyze your papers and confront that feeling, and eventually it will disappear. Okay, confront that feeling of being uncomfortable in looking at your mistakes. Eventually the feeling will disappear. See you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.